What we're looking at here is a HIMARS live fire drill taking place on a US firing range at Grafenwöhr in Germany. This weapon was first given to Ukraine back in June 2022 at a time when Putin's army was making rapid advances in the Donbas. Just a few months later, the advances slowed, stopped, and then dramatically went into reverse, with HIMARS at the center of the action. So, what's so special about this weapon, and why was it so effective? We're going to break down how it works, travel to see it in action, and speak to the crews who operate it to find out. This is HIMARS, an acronym that stands for High Mobility Artillery Rocket System. It's made up of two parts. Down here, a chassis from the family of medium tracked vehicles, or FMTV, and up here, a launcher loader module, or LLM. Let's take a look at the vehicle first. Up front is an armored cabin with space for 3 people. On the left-hand side is the driver, who's responsible for getting the vehicle where it needs to go. On the other side is the gunner. They're responsible for the fire control system, a computer which tells the HIMARS what to shoot at. And in the middle is the commander, who keeps things organized. They can pop out this hatch to help direct the driver and have a headset to relay orders to the gunner. The cabin is armored, which protects it from bullets and shrapnel, and is hermetically sealed, which stops things like poison gas and radiation. Just behind it are the radio antennas. The straight ones are short range, allowing the HIMARS to send audio or digital signals to nearby units. The circular one is long range. It sends the same signals but much further, able to range all the way from Europe to the US. At the bottom are 6 wheels controlled with 6-wheel drive, otherwise known as 6x6. These are what make the HIMARS high mobility. On roads, they can move fast with a top speed of 50 miles an hour. Off-road, the tyres can be deflated to give it extra grip, and on sand, the 6-wheel drive stops it from bogging down and getting stuck. Then there's the LLM. This sits on the back of the vehicle and can be rotated left and right and pitched up and down to point at a target. Inside is a pod of up to 6 missiles, hidden behind these end caps. When the gunner hits the fire button, the caps pop off and the missile comes flying out. Once all the missiles are gone, the LLM can quickly load another pod using an inbuilt crane. The LLM rotates, the empty pod is ejected like so, and then the crane lowers it to the floor. The crane is unhooked, attached to another full pod, and the process repeats itself in reverse. All of this can be done in under 5 minutes. Then the HIMARS is ready to shoot again. While in Germany, we saw all of that in action. Here's HIMARS unloading a rocket pod. You can see the commander up here and the gunner back here, and how a rocket pod is ejected here. The crane lowers the pod and is unclipped. Reverse the process, and the new pod is loaded into the HIMARS, ready to shoot. Next, let's talk through the rockets that HIMARS shoots. There are 2 main types. First is the Guided Multiple Launch Rocket System, or GMLRS for short. GMLRS have 4 main sections. At the back is the tail, which contains the engine and fins that help stabilize it in the air. In front of that is the fuel tank, which feeds the engine, and in front of that is the payload. Near the top of the missile is the guidance system. This has GPS, which tells the missile where to go, and these little fins or canards that help steer it there. And at the tip is the fuse, which is responsible for detonating the missile. Each rocket can be loaded with a single explosive weighing 200 pounds, which will detonate on contact to take out heavily armored targets like command bunkers, or it can be loaded with hundreds of metal ball bearings. In this case, the fuse will detonate above the target, scattering the BBs to take out lightly armored targets like infantry. Each rocket is 13 foot long, 227 millimeters wide, weighs up to 660 pounds, and has a range of more than 45 miles, much further than standard artillery at just 18 miles. The other missile type is ATACMS. Like GMLRS, they have 4 main sections. At the rear is the control section, with the rocket motor and fins used for stability and steering. In front of that is the fuel tank, and then the warhead. At the tip is the GPS guidance system and the fuse. Again, there are 2 variants. A single explosive charge weighing 500 pounds, which detonates on contact, and another filled with small bomblets that spread across a wide area. The main difference between ATACMS and GMLRS is that the former is much larger, 610 millimeters across, triple the size of GMLRS, and weighs up to 3,700 pounds or 1.6 tons. That means just one can fit inside a rocket pod, but it can carry a lot more fuel and range further, up to 186 miles. We travel to a US base in Grafenwöhr, Germany to witness a live fire. We're here in Grafenwöhr, Germany at a huge US military base. This place is more than 200 square kilometers and has actually existed since before the First World War. In the 1930s, the Nazis took it over, and this is where Hitler perfected some of the blitzkrieg tactics he would later use to conquer Europe. After the Nazis were defeated and the Americans victorious, they took it over, and here they remain to this day. What we're here to see today is the HIMARS, the High Mobility Artillery Rocket System. This was made famous after it was donated to Ukraine. Just 16 of these things were enough to make a complete mess of the Russian military and its logistics. We're here today to get hands-on with it and discover exactly how it works. We were lucky enough to see a HIMARS live fire. It was supposed to take place in the day, but a few minor hiccups meant we ended up filming at night. However, you should still be able to see what we're talking about. This is a HIMARS battery deploying to their firing positions. 4 launchers that are all designed to work in unison. They're loaded with dummy training rounds that are meant to imitate the gimbalers. Here you can see the LLM is in the elevated firing position, and the commander is ducking down inside his cab ready for launch. The first drill is called At My Command, which means the commander will tell the launchers when to open fire, which you can see happening here. The next mission is a time on target. All 4 launchers will shoot at minute intervals, meaning their rockets synchronize in the air and hit the target at the exact same time. Here's what that looks like. You can also see just how far the rockets travel here. The final mission is fire when ready. The HIMARS crews are now in a race to see who can get their rounds away first. In the end, all 4 end up firing in neat succession. We then asked the crew to talk us through HIMARS' other features. First, I wanted to know what kinds of missions the HIMARS can perform.
Well, right now you're looking at the gunner's display unit. We just get the 3 different types of fire missions like Major Nixon was saying. Our fire when ready is we'll get the mission and we'll fire it as soon as the crew is ready, as fast as possible. So we'll head out to our firing point, do all of our pre-mission checks, and then execute the mission. There's no signals, nothing like that. We're not waiting on anybody. We just fire as soon as we're ready. And the second would be an At My Command. On this one, we're waiting for a firing command from a higher element. So the mission processors that send us the mission are 13 Juliets. They'll send us the command when it's coming from either the observers or like a higher element. The time on target, we're going to be given a specific time and we have to fire no later than that time. So that'll come down in the mission over here. It'll come down right here, the no later than. It'll have a date and a time. There'll be 2 sets of timers right here. We just have to fire before that timer's up.
Next, I asked what it's like inside a HIMARS system when it opens fire.
We have this right here, which is our cab air filtration system. We flip this on right before we're about to fire, this switch right here, and it pressurizes the cab. This gauge right here reads if it's pressurized or not, using like the door seals and everything like that. And if we're pressurized and we're good to go, we can fire.
I also wanted to know what kind of targets HIMARS is designed to hit.
Mainly, we simulate attacking air defense artillery and kind of clearing the way for our Air Force. So high-value targets such as surface-to-air missiles, things like that. Proceeding a little further would be ammunition depots, headquarters, things like that. Just some types of high-value targets of that nature.
What other party tricks does HIMARS have?
So the HIMARS, really, it can fit into a lot more tight spaces. It's a lot lighter, so the maneuverability coming into working with different platforms that the U.S. military and other nations have. For example, HIMARS. This vehicle can fit onto a C-130, and it would fly either behind enemy lines or close to the front, roll off from there, execute a fire mission, and then roll back on. So it's more of just an encompassing term, considering the different capabilities that this vehicle has.
Just in case you missed it, what he's talking about there is loading HIMARS onto a plane, flying it to an attack position, driving off, opening fire, driving back on again, and then flying out of danger. What about HIMARS' weaknesses?
So normally this launcher does not want to be in close range fight. It's going to play the long game, like you said. We'll be in a hide area. We'll move to a firing point, which would be an open field where we can clear trees, mountains, buildings, things like that, where we have a clear line of sight. Once we fire the round, since the rocket will emit such a large target tracing back to us, as soon as we fire that mission, the launcher will proceed to a new area and kind of set up base in a new location.
How does reloading a HIMARS system work?
So normally after we fire all 6 rounds, or when the mission dictates, we'll get in contact with our hire, and we might have to switch out rounds if we're attacking a different type of target. Some of our different rounds have different capabilities, so you would use them for different things. But we would be contacted. We would move to a reload point, is what we call, somewhere with easy trafficability, but also pretty well hidden. So maybe somewhere in the woods where it's easy for us to pull in and execute that reload.
I wanted to know more about the different kinds of rockets.
All of our rockets and our gimlers will come in this format right here. So one pod would hold 6 rockets. Each rocket system has a different capability. So some of them have small grenades. So when it explodes, the grenades disperse over a large area. That would be more to attack light armored vehicles, infantry in the open, things like that. We also have our ATACMs, which are a 1 missile. So it'll be a lot more consolidated. It won't look like they're spread out right here. It'll just look like a big rectangle. And those normally have 1 500-pound warhead. So those will be for more high value targets, buildings, things like that.
How does firing a HIMARS system actually work?
So the cables back here in the back, we actually have 4 of them. We have our 19, our 20, our 13, and then our 30. So the 19, it just provides the igniter current. The rockets actually have very little liquid propellant. So you could come back here with like a lighter or something and wave it around back here and nothing would happen. It's all electrical. If you come back here with a 9-volt battery and you press it to the back of this, it will go off.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So this provides that igniter current. This is more of the location data. So some rounds operate off of inertia. Some of them are GPS guided. So the training rounds are inertial based. So it'll just kind of give it a general direction and it'll land around there. The GPS guided ones, however, will hit a point target.
Okay.
So, and then our 13 and our 30 are only used for our ATACMs. So the big rounds, that's the only time we'll hook those up.
HIMARS has a big brother, the M270, which uses tracks, but this vehicle uses tires. Why?
The mobility of it, being able to traffic in like sand, things like that. If you're operating in too deep of sand with tracked vehicles, you have the, I would say, disadvantage of throwing track or something, getting like all the sand, things like that, like in the tracks and popping off. With this, you don't really have to worry about it as much. You can drop the pressure in the tires and just kind of crawl along different terrains. Honestly, I love it. The HIMARS, I love operating this. I've operated on the 270s as well. They're both amazing pieces of equipment. However, I just like the ability of the HIMARS to kind of bob and weave in between trees, things like that. It's a lot faster, so I can get to places a lot quicker. I hit a hardball road or some dirt road, and I can really have my driver step on the gas and really get to where we need to go quickly. So it's a very nice piece of equipment. And the live fires are always nice and smooth inside. So.
Last, I wanted to know where this HIMARS launcher got its name.
Pretty simple for this one. I just enjoy Halo. I picked the Arbiter. I'm an Able battery, so the names kind of reflect the first letter of the battery. So I choose Arbiter because it's the first thing that came to mind, and I liked it. Like the game.
It's a cool name. I'll give you that. So, why did the HIMARS end up being so effective against Russia? It was a combination of its long range, precision, and impressive speed that made it so devastating. As we mentioned at the beginning, when the US first gave HIMARS to Ukraine, Russia was on a rampage in the Donbas. In fairly quick succession, it had captured Mariupol, Severodonetsk, and Lysychansk, and was bearing down on the city of Bakhmut. The tactic it used was simple but effective. Mass artillery barrages to pummel Ukraine's defences into dust before its troops marched in and took over the ruins. This meant keeping large stocks of artillery ammunition right on the front lines. Too far for Ukraine's artillery to hit, but close enough that it could be quickly fed into Russia's own guns. HIMARS caused carnage because it suddenly put those huge stockpiles within range. Night after night, Ukraine carried out pinpoint accurate strikes on those ammo dumps, with often spectacular results. In just 4 weeks, Kiev's generals claimed to have hit no fewer than 50 of those ammo dumps. Russia was powerless to stop the attacks because the speed with which the HIMARS could fire, move and reload meant the launchers were impossible to find and destroy. Putin's commanders had no choice but to break the ammo dumps up and move them further away. Less ammo, further from the front, meant the barrages stopped, along with their advances. Then, in September, Russia's invasion dramatically went into reverse. Ukraine launched a sweeping counterattack east of Kharkiv that recaptured 5,000 square miles of territory in just a month. Again, HIMARS were crucial. In the opening stages of the battle, they hit ammo dumps, logistics centers, and command posts deep behind the front line, softening it up for an attack. All of this was accomplished with just a dozen launchers, none of which Russia could find or destroy. In fact, it would take 2 full years for the Russians to hit one. HIMARS proved so effective that America was soon inundated with orders for the weapon system from Russia's other neighbors. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Romania all bought them. Poland, which is no stranger to war with Russia, tried to buy 700 of them. Too many for America to build. In the end, Warsaw had to settle for just 500. A multi-billion-dollar bet that HIMARS will be a threat to Russia not just now, but well into the future. While in Grafenwöhr, we spoke to the commander of a HIMARS unit to learn more. What is the purpose of having HIMARS stationed in Europe?
HIMARS is a well-integrated weapon system all across Europe. So multiple partner countries, so the Polish, the Romanians, the Estonians just received their HIMARS, and we all collaborate in what's called the European HIMARS Initiative, which is basically a collaborative group around HIMARS and rocket artillery in general to share the techniques and procedures that we normally operate in, as well as plan collaborative exercises together. And so that's a big part of kind of the assurance piece of our mission here. We obviously have a deterrence effect being deployed here, and we have a mission that revolves around the ability to deter any adversary from engaging in war against NATO. And then from the reinforced side of things, so we're spread. We have a platoon of ours that's up in Estonia that's serving up there and helping train the Estonians on their HIMARS. And then we're down here helping with some other partners and allies, and then training ourselves to make sure that we're ready to go if called upon.
Is there any interest in HIMARS from outside Europe?
I think it goes beyond just Europe. I know that other countries are interested in it as well. Obviously, the conflict in Ukraine is a big part of that, and the way that weapon system has been utilized for strategic impact. And so based on that, and then just based on the capabilities that we talked about earlier, a lot of people are interested in procuring HIMARS for their own national defense. And the fact that NATO is such a good collaborative entity, it's a big part of being able to share that across the board and learn lessons, because the way that we employ HIMARS is not necessarily the way that the Estonians will or that the Polish will. And so a good thing that we do, as a part of the HIMARS initiative, is that we're sharing different ways that we use the system and learning better ways that we all can use it in the future.
Next, I asked what traditions HIMARS units have.
So if you're new to a unit, to a rocket battalion, or if you're leaving and you're well-liked, then it's usually someone that's got some sticky fingers will relieve you of your patrol cap, so your hat, and they will tape it to the back of the rocket pod when we go out for a live fire. So what happens is when the rocket goes off, obviously your hat gets relatively singed and or completely destroyed, somewhere in between. And then if there are any remnants of that, it will be returned to you by the crew that fired your hat as a token of goodwill and good luck going forward.
The Ukraine war has made HIMARS something of a celebrity. What's that been like?
It's been interesting. We're not always as I said earlier, we're not always the prettiest girl at the dance floor back at Fort Bragg, but over here we're quite popular. So it's been very interesting to interact with a lot of our allies. and get to work hand in hand with them. That's part of the thing that makes the United States and NATO so strong, is just that bond. Every place that I've deployed across my career, I've always had a partner and ally there that's been with me, and so that's been very evident here as well.
That's where this tape stops, but we'll be back soon to play you through another episode of War on Tape. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you want more videos like this in your feed, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.